Welcome to Stories with Jola. Let's begin our journey. Welcome to
I found my husband's wedding ring inside my best friend's handbag. Not in her house. Not in her bedroom. Not even in her car. Inside her handbag while she was sitting right in front of me, smiling and asking about my children. The ring was scratched on one side. I knew every mark on it because I bought it myself. And when I saw it, I felt something cold move through my body. Because my husband had told me 3 days earlier that he lost that ring during a business trip. That was the moment I realized 2 people I trusted more than anyone had been lying to me for a very long time. My name is Sarah. This happened in Lagos 3 years ago. I am married to David. At least I was happy to call him my husband back then. My best friend was Rachel. Rachel and I met during our NYSC days. We became close almost immediately. She was funny, easygoing, and always available when I needed help. When I got married to David, she was my chief bridesmaid. When she got married to Michael 2 years later, I stood beside her at the altar. People used to joke that we were more like sisters than friends. And honestly, I believed it. For years our families spent weekends together. Our children played together. Our husbands became friends. We attended birthdays, weddings, church events, and family gatherings together. Everything looked perfect from the outside. But looking back now, there were signs. I just ignored them. The first sign came about a year before everything exploded. Rachel suddenly became very interested in my marriage. At first I thought she was just being caring. She would ask questions like, "Is David still traveling often? Does he still come home late? Does he still keep his second phone?" The questions felt strange. But she always laughed and said she was just curious. Then she started calling David directly. At first it was normal. She would call to ask about something concerning church or one family event. But after some months, I noticed she called him more than she called me. One evening I was sitting beside David when his phone rang. Rachel's name appeared. He quickly rejected the call. I looked at him. He looked uncomfortable. "Why didn't you answer?" I asked. He shrugged. "I'll call her later." It felt strange. But I didn't push further. Marriage teaches you to pick your battles. At least that was what I believed. A few months later, another strange thing happened. We were at Rachel's house for a barbecue. Michael was outside with some guests. I entered the kitchen to get drinks. Rachel didn't know I was there. She was talking on the phone. The moment she saw me, she ended the call immediately. Her face changed. Almost like she got caught doing something wrong. "Who was that?" I asked. She smiled. "My cousin." Something about her answer felt forced. But again, I ignored it. Life was busy. I had work, children, family responsibilities. I wasn't looking for problems. Then things became worse. David started protecting his phone. Before, he could leave it anywhere. Suddenly he carried it everywhere. Bathroom, kitchen, even when taking a quick shower. One night I woke up around 2 a.m. David wasn't beside me. I found him downstairs, talking quietly on the phone. The moment he saw me, he ended the call. "Who were you speaking with?" I asked. He rubbed his face. "Office matter." At 2 a.m. I wanted to believe him. So I did. That was my mistake. Months passed. Then Michael called me one afternoon. He sounded worried. "Sarah, can I ask you something?" "Of course." There was silence. Then he asked, Has Rachel been spending more time with David recently? My stomach tightened. I laughed nervously. What kind of question is that? I don't know, he said. I've just noticed certain things. I immediately defended both of them. I told him he was overthinking. I told him Rachel loved him. I told him David would never betray me. Michael apologized. But before ending the call, he said something that stayed in my head. Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones we never suspect. For weeks I couldn't stop thinking about that sentence. Still, I did nothing. Because I trusted them. Then came the ring. Rachel visited my house one Saturday afternoon. We sat in the living room discussing school fees and family matters. At some point she went to the restroom. Her handbag remained on the couch. A few seconds later her phone started ringing inside the bag. I honestly intended to help her. Nothing more. I opened the handbag to bring out the phone. That was when I saw the ring. David's ring. My husband's wedding ring. The same ring he claimed was missing. I froze. The phone continued ringing. But I couldn't move. My hands started shaking. I picked up the ring. There was no mistake. None. The scratch was there. The small dent was there. Everything matched. My heart was beating so loudly I could hear it. Then I heard Rachel approaching. I quickly dropped the ring back into the bag. When she entered the room, she smiled. I forced myself to smile too. But inside, something had already broken. After she left, I confronted David. I showed him a photo I secretly took of the ring. His face lost color immediately. That told me everything. Still, he denied it. He said maybe Rachel found it somewhere. He said maybe she forgot to return it. He said maybe there was a misunderstanding. Too many maybes. No real answer. That night I couldn't sleep. The next morning I called Michael. I didn't tell him everything. But I asked if he had noticed anything unusual recently. His answer shocked me. He had. A lot. He said Rachel had become distant. Secretive. Protective of her phone. He said she sometimes disappeared for hours. He also said he once saw a message notification from someone saved under a female name. But when he checked later, the conversation was gone. Deleted. That was when we decided to find out the truth. Not because we wanted drama. Because we needed answers. Over the next few weeks, pieces started falling into place. Rachel and David were much smarter than we expected. But not smart enough. One afternoon Michael sent me screenshots. A private investigator he hired had followed Rachel. The report showed meetings, hotels, restaurants, locations that matched David's travel schedule. I felt sick reading it. Each page felt like a knife. The worst part wasn't the cheating. It was the length of time. Almost 3 years. 3 years of lies. 3 years of family gatherings. 3 years of pretending. 3 years of sitting at my dining table while secretly sleeping with my husband. I cried until I couldn't cry anymore. Then things became darker. Because we discovered something even worse. The affair wasn't just emotional. It wasn't even just physical. Money was involved. Large amounts of money. And that was when the real nightmare started. Michael discovered that money was disappearing from their joint account. At first he thought it was accounting errors. But after checking carefully, he realized Rachel had been moving funds gradually over many months. Small amounts. Amounts that would not attract attention. The transfers led to accounts connected to David. When I checked our finances, I discovered something similar. David had been taking loans without telling me. Money had disappeared. Investments had vanished. And suddenly everything made sense. The expensive gifts. The secret meetings. The hidden phones. The lies. It wasn't only betrayal. It was a partnership built on deception. And they were using both of us to fund it. That discovery terrified me more than the affair itself. Because it meant these were no longer the people we thought we knew. They had become strangers. Dangerous strangers. And the worst was still coming. Because when Rachel realized we were getting close to the truth, she made a decision that would destroy 4 families in a single week. At first, we did not know she was aware. Michael and I were being careful. We barely spoke on the phone. We met only a few times. Neither of us wanted our spouses to suspect anything. But somehow Rachel found out. Maybe she saw a message. Maybe David warned her. Maybe she simply noticed changes in our behavior. Whatever happened, she knew. And once she knew, everything became chaotic. It started on a Tuesday morning. I was at work when my bank called. The woman on the phone sounded concerned. "Madam Sarah, we need to confirm a transaction." I had not made any transaction. When she mentioned the amount, my blood ran cold. Millions of naira. An amount large enough to destroy years of savings. I immediately told her I knew nothing about it. The bank froze the transfer before it could be completed. I left work immediately. When I got home, David was nowhere to be found. His phone was switched off. I checked our documents. Some were missing. Loan papers. Investment records. Bank statements. Gone. At first I thought I was panicking. Then Michael called. His voice was shaking. Rachel emptied one of our accounts. For several seconds neither of us spoke. Everything was becoming clear. They knew. And they were trying to take as much money as possible before running. That evening David finally came home. I confronted him immediately. No more pretending. No more excuses. I placed the investigator's report on the table. I placed copies of bank records beside it. Then I looked directly at him. Tell me the truth. For the first time in our marriage, he could not even look me in the eye. He sat down slowly. His shoulders dropped. And then he admitted it. Everything. The affair. The secret meetings. The lies. 3 years. 3 whole years. I felt numb. Almost empty. The man sitting before me looked like David. But he felt like a complete stranger. Then I asked the question that had been haunting me. Why? He covered his face. I don't know. That answer made me angrier than everything else. 3 years of betrayal. And he did not know why. He claimed it started accidentally. A few conversations. A few meetings. Then it became something bigger. That was his explanation. But I was no longer interested in explanations. I wanted facts. And facts revealed something terrifying. Rachel was not planning to stop. Neither was David. According to him, they had discussed leaving their spouses. But neither wanted to lose money during a divorce. So they kept delaying. Month after month. Year after year. Meanwhile they continued pretending to be loving partners. That level of deception frightened me. Because it required planning. It required discipline. It required lies every single day. I asked David to leave the house. He packed a few things and left. That was the last night he ever slept under my roof. The next day Michael confronted Rachel. The confrontation was much worse. Rachel denied everything at first. Then she blamed Michael. Then she blamed me. Then she blamed David. Everybody except herself. When Michael showed her evidence, she became aggressive. According to him, she smashed a glass against the wall. She screamed. She threatened. She accused him of spying. But eventually the truth came out. The marriage ended that same day. What happened next was the reason police became involved. 3 days later, Michael discovered several documents missing from his home office. Property papers, business records, legal agreements, important documents worth millions. At first he thought Rachel had taken them. Then something even stranger happened. His office was broken into. Nothing else was stolen. Not televisions. Not laptops. Not cash. Only files connected to his businesses. That was when he contacted the police. Initially, officers believed it was ordinary theft. But the deeper they looked, the stranger things became. The missing documents were connected to properties Rachel knew about. Properties David also knew about. The timing was suspicious. Very suspicious. Then another discovery changed everything. Security cameras from a nearby building captured a vehicle near Michael's office shortly before the break-in. The vehicle belonged to a friend of David. Police began asking questions. Soon they uncovered a network of lies much larger than anybody expected. The investigation revealed that Rachel and David had been moving money through several accounts. Nothing illegal by itself. But some transactions raised serious questions. Large sums appeared. Large sums disappeared. Records did not match explanations. Police wanted answers. Suddenly what began as an affair had become a financial investigation. The pressure increased quickly. Both Rachel and David hired lawyers. Families became involved. Friends took sides. Church members gossiped. Neighbors whispered. The story spread everywhere. I hated leaving my house. Everywhere I went people stared. People always claim they care about victims. The truth is many people simply enjoy watching disaster. The stress affected my children. They heard rumors. They heard arguments. They asked questions I could barely answer. Those months were the hardest of my life. I barely slept. I barely ate. Sometimes I sat alone in my living room until sunrise, wondering how my life had changed so completely. Then came the arrest. Police called Michael one morning. They wanted him at the station. Several people had been detained for questioning, including Rachel, including David. The news shocked everybody. By then investigators believed some of the missing business documents had been intentionally hidden. There were also questions regarding unauthorized transfers and forged signatures. I attended part of the proceedings. Not because I wanted revenge. I wanted closure. Rachel looked different. The confident woman I once knew was gone. She looked exhausted. David looked worse. Years seemed to have appeared on his face overnight. For hours investigators questioned them. Lawyers moved in and out of offices. Statements were collected. Evidence was reviewed. Eventually some suspects were released. Others remained under investigation. The legal process dragged on for months. But one fact became impossible to deny. Rachel and David had crossed lines far beyond adultery. The affair had become connected to financial deception affecting both families. The scandal destroyed their credibility completely. Friends disappeared. Business relationships ended. Trust vanished. And still the story was not over. Because during the investigation, police uncovered something nobody expected. Not even Michael. Not even me. One afternoon an investigator requested another interview. He asked several questions about the beginning of the affair. Then he showed me copies of old phone records. I stared at them for several seconds. Certain dates stood out. Dates from years earlier. Dates before Rachel and David supposedly started their relationship. Much earlier. The investigator asked a simple question. Are you sure this affair only lasted 3 years? I frowned. What do you mean? He slid another document across the table. Then another. Then another. Call logs. Messages. Records. My stomach tightened. The communication went back much further. Nearly 6 years. 6 years. That meant something impossible. Rachel and David were involved before Rachel married Michael. I felt dizzy. I remember gripping the edge of the chair. The investigator continued speaking. But his voice sounded distant. My mind was racing. If that was true, then everything changed. Everything. The weddings. The friendships. The family gatherings. The children playing together. It all looked different now. According to evidence, Rachel and David had been communicating secretly even before her wedding. Which raised a horrifying possibility. Their entire friendship with us may have been built on a lie from the very beginning. The discovery devastated Michael. It devastated me too. Because betrayal hurts differently when you realize it was planned. Not a mistake. Not a moment of weakness. A calculated deception stretching across years. For weeks I struggled with that truth. Then one final revelation arrived. The revelation that still gives me chills today. It came from Rachel's younger sister. A quiet woman named Emily. She contacted me unexpectedly. At first I did not want to speak with her. I was tired. Exhausted. Emotionally drained. But she insisted. So we met. The moment we sat down, I could tell she was nervous. She kept looking around. Checking her phone. Twisting her fingers. Then she told me something I will never forget. Years earlier, before Rachel married Michael, she had confessed something during a private conversation. Rachel believed David would eventually leave me. She believed she would eventually marry him. That was the plan. Not after the affair. Before the affair. Before the wedding. Before everything. Rachel only married Michael after David refused to leave me. She married Michael while still hoping David would change his mind someday. I could barely breathe while listening. Emily started crying. She said she never imagined things would become so destructive. Neither did I. For years Rachel had smiled in my face. Attended my birthdays. Held my children. Called me sister. All while secretly waiting for my marriage to collapse. That realization haunted me for months. Because it meant the friendship I valued so deeply never truly existed. At least not in the way I believed. Eventually the investigations ended. The courts handled the remaining disputes. Assets were divided. Businesses recovered slowly. Life moved forward. Michael rebuilt his life. I rebuilt mine. It was not easy. Trust became difficult. Friendships felt different. I questioned people's motives more than before. But slowly things improved. Today I am happier than I was during those final years of my marriage. The pain eventually faded. Not completely. But enough. People often ask what the scariest part of the story was. The affair. The stolen money. The police investigation. The arrest. No. None of those. The scariest part was realizing that someone can sit across from you for years, smile at you, hug you, pray with you, celebrate with you, and still be living a completely different reality from the one you believe. That is what keeps me awake sometimes. Not because I fear Rachel anymore. Not because I fear David. But because evil rarely looks evil when you first meet it. Sometimes it looks like friendship. Sometimes it looks like loyalty. Sometimes it looks like family. And sometimes you only discover the truth after years of trusting the wrong people. The last time I saw Rachel was outside a courthouse. For a moment our eyes met. Neither of us spoke. Neither of us smiled. She looked away first. Then she walked toward the parking lot and disappeared into the crowd. I have never seen her again. And honestly, I hope I never do. I found my
Thanks for watching Stories with Jola. Please like and subscribe for more stories.